So with that said, let's dive into the traditional recruiting process, which most of you are probably doing today, assuming you're actively recruiting today. Transition from there to talk about the SRU recruiting process, which will allow you to increase the volume and quality of your hires while eliminating 50 to 75% of the time investment compared to the traditional recruiting process. So depending on the market that you're in and how efficient you are in the recruiting process, followed up with how good you are at selling your opportunity, this will result into you needing at least 50 and sometimes up to 100 applicants to get one hire onboarded into onboarding. For the sake of this illustration, we'll assume that it's 50 applications to get one recruit into onboarding on Monday. Now, the traditional recruiting process is you're going to get 50 applications in. You're going to spend 30 if you're quick and probably up to 60 minutes on screening through those 50 applications and opting out 60% of them just based on their background alone. So in the traditional model, we've taken 50 applications, we've spent maybe up to an hour, and we've opted out 30 of those 50 applications, leaving us with 20 people that we want to speak with. From there, we're taking those 20 applications and inviting them to a 10 to 15-minute phone interview to learn a little bit more about them, to pitch the opportunity, and to figure out if we're able to set a one-on-one interview with them later. Now, if I do 20 phone interviews that are 10 to 15 minutes long, that's an additional 3 to 5 hour time investment in the traditional recruiting process. Now, assuming you're actually good at the recruiting process and selling your opportunity on that phone interview, you'll end up converting about 10 of those people to take next steps into a one-on-one interview. Those one-on-one interviews are going to be 30 to 60 minutes long, which is another 5 to 10 hours on your calendar. Unfortunately, 40 to maybe 50% of those candidates are not going to show up, which means you actually wasted a ton of time and you met with 5 to 6 candidates. And out of those 5 to 6 people, you recruited 2 people. And in most cases, especially for the small business owner who maybe doesn't have leads and training pay and these kind of things, only 1 out of those 2 people actually show up to Monday for onboarding training. And so what we've done in this traditional recruiting process is we've invested 10 to 15 hours just to get 1 person to show up on Monday. And where it gets even more frustrating is more likely than not that 1 person will not work out. See, most of you at best are going to need to recruit 2 people to retain 1, which is a 50% retention rate, and at worst need to recruit 10 reps to retain 1, which is a 10% retention rate. Now, every organization is a little bit different, but typically the top 10% of sales forces, because they have the best sales programs, are better at retention. And the small business owner who maybe doesn't have quality sales leadership yet, they haven't worked through a lot of their sales program kinks, is on the lower end of the retention rates. The average door-to-door sales force that works with us gets to a 33% to a 20% retention rate over 90 days. By not only getting good at the recruiting process, which we'll talk about here in a moment, but also getting good at the onboarding and management and compensation aspect of building their sales team, which you can learn more about in our free course at salesrecruiter.com/course. So for the sake of this training, we can assume that you need to recruit 5 average Joe reps to get 1 to stick and scale up into quota. Now, if you're doing $1 million in revenue today and your next big goal is to get to 5 million, which is a difference of $4 million in revenue, the average Joe expected quota is going to be 500K in net revenue a year. Well, 500K divided by 4 million, which is the difference in revenue to hit my goal, that is 8 additional reps that I need on board today to accomplish that goal. Now, if I need 8 reps producing at quota to go from 1 to 5 million, and I also understand I need to recruit 5 reps for every one that sticks, well, that concludes that I actually need to onboard 40 sales reps to get to the point where I retain 8 reps that allows me to get from 1 to 5 million in revenue. And if you understand now with the traditional recruiting process that it's going to take 10 to 15 hours for every recruit, then you can reasonably conclude that this is a full-time job and you need an expert sales recruiter running the traditional recruiting process. And if you're anything like our average door-to-door sales client, we literally have hundreds of them, then you're a small business owner, you don't have the resources to hire a full-time recruiter that ends up making 80 to 150K a year. And even if you did have the resources, your need doesn't really align with that, because maybe as soon as you get to 3 or 5 or 10 additional sales reps on staff, then you'll turn off recruiting anyways.